Welcome to RelapsePreventionPlan.net's free online rehab lessons. We believe that it's never too late to learn to prevent relapse. Welcome to this presentation on motivation. In this presentation, you will learn to define motivation, to define ambivalence, and to list 5 actions that you can do with non-using family members or friends to increase your motivation, and 5 actions you can take on your own. Ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. So, what is motivation? Motivation is not a personality problem or a trait. It's a state of readiness or eagerness to change. Motivation can fluctuate from one time or situation to another. And motivation can be influenced. So, when does change occur? There's little evidence that shows accepting a label or diagnosis means someone will change their behavior. Saying they will change does not mean people will change. People commonly say one thing and do another. Motivation can be better defined as the probability that a person will enter into, continue, and stick with a specific change strategy. So which comes first, motivation or action? In your opinion, which comes first, motivation or productive action? Take a moment to think about it. It's kind of a trick question. If you said motivation, don't feel bad. You made a good guess. And because that's the way a lot of us think. But it's really not the correct answer. The correct answer is productive action. Productive action leads to motivation. People who are extremely successful know that motivation doesn't come first. Productive action does. You have to prime the pump by getting started, whether you feel like it or not. Then, once you begin to accomplish something, it will spur you on to do even more. So getting started really is the key. The same principle can apply to anything you're putting off. Once you get started, it usually turns out to be far less difficult than you had imagined, and you feel more like doing it. Action leads to motivation, which leads to more action. The more you do to recover, the more you will want to do and be motivated to do. So here's the simple message. Action, motivation, is more action. The more you do, the more you'll feel like doing. But doing something comes first. And it seems totally the opposite of everything that we've been taught. But give it a try. It works. So taking action. You can start taking action, and while you're working at reading and completing the exercises and make your last relapse the last, there are some particular things you can do to keep building your motivation and momentum. You can increase your motivation to change by getting advice from non-using family members and friends to help you to more clearly identify your problems and high-risk situations, and identify why change is important for you. You can increase your motivation to change also by removing your change barriers. Learn how your thinking acts as a barrier to change. Learn and practice cognitive skills. Improve your communication skills by asking for feedback and completing assignments. Carry out exercise and relaxation activities so you can experience a change in mental and physical functioning. And by making choices, identify and work on your unique goals. More ways to increase your motivation to change by decreasing desirability of continued drug and alcohol use by identifying positive and negative incentives for continuing alcohol or drug abuse. Identify positive and negative incentives for not using, and work to tip the balance in favor of positive change. Your tipping point for change will be unique and specific to you. Increase your motivation to change by asking non-using family members and friends to provide feedback. If you don't know where you are, then you can't plan to go somewhere else. You can't change if you don't receive sufficient, clear, and specific feedback about your current behavior and situation. You can't change if you don't receive sufficient, clear, and specific feedback about the consequences and risks of continuing your drug and alcohol-related behaviors. Increase your motivation to change by clarifying your goals. Develop goals that are realistic, clear, and based on a standard of behavior that is normal and praiseworthy. Behaviors that are acceptable and normalized among heavily drinking and drug-using friends are not acceptable in the wider world of community and friends that you are attempting to enter or re-enter. Goals and feedback together help you create your own motivation for change. It's unique to you. Non-using family members and friends help increase your motivation to change by practicing empathy, understanding your experiences through active listening, and reflecting your statements back to you so you begin to develop an accurate picture of your addiction experience and the positive changes required. They can help you to succeed in completing our workbook, Make Your Last Relapse the Last, and by helping you and motivating you to complete workbook exercises, complete exercise and relaxation activities, improve your personal hygiene, improve eating and sleeping habits, because they actively assist you to move toward change, towards healthy change. If you treat an individual as he is, he will stay as he is. But if you treat him as if he were what he ought to be and could be, he will become what he ought to be and could be. Here's some more ways to increase your motivation to change by getting advice, removing barriers, making choices, decreasing desirability of continuing drug and alcohol use, experiencing empathy, getting feedback, and clarifying goals. Also, responding positively to active helping. When somebody is doing a good job of helping you, respond with gratitude and positivity. So you can also increase your motivation by completing all the plans in Make Your Last Relapse the Last, such as the craving management plan. Set goals for achievements during your recovery and for after your recovery. Consider options for change and actions to achieve goals. Decrease the desirability of continuing drug and alcohol use through defining a life plan that includes relapse prevention and excludes activities that place you at risk. Increase your motivation through action. Build skills and confidence through listening to our YouTube lessons, reading, practicing, and participating. Exercise every day, even if it's just a 15-minute walk. Use relaxation techniques every day. Improve your nutrition at every meal. Do a little thing to make it better every meal. Increase your relapse prevention knowledge by completing workbook exercises in Make Your Last Relapse the Last. And work to improve your attitude towards yourself and your future, and share your progress with family and friends. "Why are you drinking?" demanded the little prince. "So that I may forget," replied the tippler. "Forget what?" inquired the little prince, who was already sorry for him. "Forget that I am ashamed," the tippler confessed, hanging his head. "Ashamed of what?" insisted the little prince, wanting to help. "Ashamed of drinking." The tippler brought his speech to an end and shut himself up in an impregnable silence. And the prince went away very puzzled. "The grown-ups are certainly very, very odd," he said to himself. Ambivalence. You are more than a passive recipient of support from your family and friends. You have some motivation to change, or you wouldn't be here watching and listening to this presentation. Inside yourself, you know you can and want to succeed. Yet every single day you will face a degree of "I want to, but I don't want to." And this is ambivalence. It is the dilemma of change. Accept that you feel conflicted and deal with it. Ambivalence plays a central role in changing behaviors in addiction, emotional disorders, and body weight. You recognize the costs, risks, and harm involved in your behavior, yet you are attracted to the behavior. Ambivalence is holding two conflicting sets of emotions and feelings at the same time. So why do you feel ambivalent? After a period of physical dependence on alcohol and drugs, your body and brain require time to readjust once you stop using. Because it will take time for your body to readjust, it will be sending you confusing signals. Remember, habits have cues. Habits or conditioning patterns of alcohol and drug use are powerful cues and sources of ambivalence. The smell of smoke can remind people of drinking. The sound of a certain piece of music can cue back to using. It will take time for your mind and body to stop reacting to those cues and to stop sending you signals that it is time to use again. Why do you feel ambivalent? Psychological dependence on alcohol and drugs for coping with difficult emotions and situations causes ambivalence every time these situations arrive in early recovery. Until you learn new ways to cope with negative emotions and they become your new habits. For example, every time you experience anger, sadness, loneliness, or you will yearn to use again. Because emotions are powerful cues. Approach, avoidance, conflict. Addiction is a classic example of approach, avoidance, conflict. I can't live with it, I can't live without it, types of conflict. Approach avoidance conflict is the most difficult type of conflict to resolve for all people. It has the greatest potential for keeping people stuck and creating stress. Ambivalent thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are normal in recovery, and they can be positively managed and resolved. Let's do an exercise to create tips for managing ambivalence. Take a few minutes and think of your most recent ambivalent thought or feeling about staying sober and why you did not act on it. Use a journal to jot it down if you wish. And if you have somebody near, you can share with a non-using family member or friend your ambivalent thought and your best reason for not acting on it. You pause the presentation for a moment while you write down your answer, think about it, or talk with your friend or family member. Work through your ambivalence. Complete and keep with you a cost-benefit review of why you want to change your life. Add more reasons to your list every day to keep the balance in favor of abstinence and getting on with life. Clarify and challenge the values that allowed you to use and call you back to using. Create new values that support change. Challenge your expectancies of what a return to alcohol or drugs will give you. For example, relaxation, increased wittiness, fun, confidence, that high feeling. Improve your self-esteem by learning coping skills to manage depression, anxiety, and anger. Improve your self-esteem by building skills to manage high-risk situations. Improve your communication skills to increase positive social activities and resolve conflict. Actively participate in your own recovery. Demand the best of your peers and family. Do not allow them to sidetrack your relapse prevention and life goals. Demand the best of yourself by working hard at your recovery and letting yourself enjoy it. Uncertainty will always be part of the taking charge process. Here are the references for this presentation if you'd like to look up further information. In this presentation, you learned to define motivation, to define ambivalence, and to list 5 actions that you can do with non-using family members or friends to increase your motivation, and 5 actions you can take on your own. If you haven't already, please visit relapsepreventionplan.net and download our free book, Make Your Last Relapse the Last. Remember, this video is not a substitute for proper medical care and consultation with your physician. Don't ignore professional advice or delay seeking treatment based on the information in this video or on this YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. You can do it. We believe in you, so don't give up.